The following program has been pre-recorded, so please don't call in at this time. If you wish to participate in the program, tune in at 5 p.m. every Wednesday for A Pause for Thought on Baton Rouge Community Radio. Good evening, fellow humans. This is Wayne Parker with A Pause for Thought on Baton Rouge Community Radio 96.9 FM right here in Baton Rouge. Hey, it's good to have you all here, and I'd like to let everybody know that we are a live call-in show right now. You can call in and share your thoughts and opinions and perspectives. Dial 343-9927, 343-9927. And the only rule for calling in is that you keep it respectful and voice your opinions as what they are, opinions. Now, we had a scheduled topic for tonight. We were going to have someone on to talk about Baton Rouge pride and the like, but we couldn't make that work due to illnesses and the like. But we do have a guest in the studio tonight to talk about some of the local events in Baton Rouge over the past couple of weeks. And I'm sure you know I'm talking about the shooting of Alton Sterling at the Triple S grocery store in Baton Rouge here. And, you know, there's all kinds of aspects to address concerning that. And tonight we have a local businessman, Rashawn Davis. He's president of the board of directors for the grooming salon and spa here in Baton Rouge, and he also teaches at a middle school not far from Triple S Grocery. Good evening, Rashawn. Glad to have you.
How you doing? Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it would help if I turned your microphone on. Okay.
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay. Yeah, I thought something sounded funny. Johnny Parker here is also here, and he's laughing at me right now. Good evening, Johnny.
Good evening, Wayne. Just smiling. Happy to be here. Happy to be here with Rashawn.
Yes, I'm very happy to have Rashawn here, and because I want to talk a lot about this issue. There is a lot of to talk about, but
Yes.
Rashawn, as I told you before we went on the air, being a middle-aged white guy who's quite comfortable, I'm not the one that should be setting the topics or the agenda for discussion. So I will defer to you. Is there anything in particular that you would like to talk about regarding the issues, the problems we're having, now, right? Well, we've been having, but the issues that have come to light recently.
Well, Wayne, first of all, thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it. I believe that as we move forward and continue to dialogue about this, I think that it's very important for someone such as yourself and myself from two different ethnic backgrounds to sit down and have civilized discussions about where we can move our communities forward as a whole, as a people. And when I say as a people, I'm talking about as human beings, because humanity is a big part of this particular situation. Because what we have to remember is that whether it's Alton Sterling, whether it's a white man, an Asian man that's on that ground, on that particular night, there's no reason that any man should have died in that form. So we always have to keep that in mind. So when I look at those type of things and I think about community policing, one of the things that concerns me from the top on down back to the community is this. A vast majority of the police officers in Baton Rouge Police Department don't necessarily live in the communities that they police, or possibly even live in East Baton Rouge Parish. They live in Zachary, they live in Denham Springs, they may live in Gonzales. That's a rule or a law that we really have to take into consideration, because Alton Sterling has been at Triple S selling CDs for multiple years. That means if we have community policing, when they get that phone call, chances are the police officers that go to that call know him.
Yes.
They've seen him before. So that entire interaction changes very fast. It turns into something different.
Right.
Okay? All things that we have to take into consideration. And so there are some things that we have to address there at that level.
Okay, but then the argument comes back with, that there's nobody from that community that will be a police officer. How do you address that?
How I address that is this: again, you don't have to live in that community for you to be a community police officer. Again, if there's someone that is assigned to that community that has been there for years, they know who Alton Sterling is. That's the point that I'm trying to make. When a man is in front of a neighborhood corner store selling a product for multiple years, whether the police officer lives in that community or not, if they work that community on a regular basis, they know who that person is. That police officer can be black, he can be white, he can be Asian, he can be Mexican. That's not the issue. I'm simply saying that community policing starts with someone that is assigned to a demographic area that goes there to serve, protect the people, and know the people of that particular geographical area.
So they rotate the police out and have different people in.
I have no idea. It seems to me that this altercation, when you read The Advocate, when you watch the video, when you listen to the police chief and some community leaders that have told their side of the story, when you listen to the store owner, it seems very evident to me that something is missing. There's some type of disconnect between law enforcement and the community. Whether they rotate them around or not, I have no direct information on.
Yeah, and really, from what I've been told about Alton, and all I know is what I read in the paper or hear, in news, he was generally liked. He wasn't considered a harm or a threat to anybody.
Right.
But clearly the police didn't think so. They treated him very roughly, from what I can see. And listening to the owner of the store on Democracy Now! Just before the show, apparently there was a lot of other things, a lot of other physical attacks that occurred before the video started rolling, the ones that we saw.
Right.
So, but yeah, it did seem to me that the cops weren't looking at him as a human being, which is what I think is the major problem for everyone concerned, really. People who are comfortable and don't live in that neighborhood or go to it that often and deal with the people don't even have a concept of what they are, and to out of sight, out of mind, that kind of thing.
And so why are they comfortable? Why are they comfortable?
They're blissfully ignorant, really. They're unaware of things going on.
Okay.
And I'm speaking from my perspective, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I mean, I hear about these things and I nod my head and tut-tut, but in reality, I'm not living the fear. I'm not living that situation. I have opportunities. I'm a middle-class white guy, And when this happened, I determined to get in there and start meeting people so that I can really feel what they're feeling and maybe speak to it more and be kind of, hopefully, an example for other people to get involved.
I have one comment. When a police officer comes into that situation, and I'm trying to put myself in police officers' shoes and in the community shoes,
Yes.
Alton Sterling shoes,
Yes.
the store owner's shoes.
Yes.
I can't help but feel as a police officer going into that situation, fear. I think a lot of police officers face fear. They experience fear every time they go into a situation like that. They've been told, person's been waving a gun. Even in other situations they go in, they don't know what they're going to expect. Now, I'm not saying that they should have gone in like they did. I'm trying to understand why they went in like they did.
Okay.
Okay? And the additional training, of course, can be like that. But when you have fear, then I can understand. I can't necessarily accept, the actions that were done. Now, on the other hand, let me put myself in the shoes of the store owner
Okay.
and of Alton. Well, I can't put my shoes in the shoes of Alton, but there's fear there also, right?
Very much so.
There's fear with him working in that area at 1 a.m. at night. He's had issues before, right?
Right.
So he's scared about his own personal safety.
I think there's two different types of fear, though. Okay. One is subconscious and the other one is not, because those police officers wear that badge and that uniform for an estimated 40 hours a week. Alton Sterling was born a black man. His fear is 24/7, 365, and it doesn't go away.
That's something that most comfortable people like me are not aware of. They don't appreciate that fact.
And it's a reality.
Yeah, no question about
It's a
it.
reality that someone such as myself or Alton has to live with
Right.
all day, every day.
Right. And I don't think there's any way that we, like Wayne said, coming from a different ethnic background, living in different neighborhoods, growing up, different families. Yes, I agree with you.
I would look. Oh, go ahead,
Go
John.
ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to say something to your question, Johnny. The fear of the policeman. It was brought to my attention today during a lunch interview with a new acquaintance on this issue, or we were talking about this issue, and he said, like Rashawn also said, if the cops had been there for a long time, several years, dealing with the people there in the community all the time, when they got that call, they would have probably rolled their eyes and said, okay, it's Alton, let's go talk to him. And they wouldn't have been frightened when they came. They would have had a relationship with him already and would have walked up and said, yo, man, what's going on? We just got a call, and they could have diffused the whole thing right there.
Right. Absolutely. And the
right.
question then is, are there enough policemen who can be there 24/7
Well,
to
at lea-
diffuse that situation that are familiar in the community?
Well,
'Cause
yeah.
I agree. I think a lot of other communities around the nation agree that community policing is a new strategy. It's working very successfully in some areas. There's no reason it can't work
It's
successfully
actually
here.
it's an old strategy that we got away from somehow, because it used to be that way. You
Right.
know, everybody knew the local cop, and he'd come to the schools and talk to the kids and everything. And he was your friend. And now that's changed, really, for everybody.
It has, and it creates a different dynamic in the urban inner city community that has to be addressed. And again, it has to be addressed from the top down. And during this process, we've heard very little from our police chief. We've heard very little from our mayor. That's a problem.
It took the governor, the head of the state of Louisiana, to come and make personal statements and show some humanity, right?
And so why is that?
Yeah.
Why did we have to wait to hear from the chief of police? Our mayor cared about this so little that he took it upon himself to get on a plane and go to Washington, D.C. in the midst of a national crisis.
Yeah.
And for what? Trams that go from downtown to LSU?
Is that what it was? Just
Yes.
in downtown
Yes.
LSU?
Yeah, that was a comment that he made.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, you folks back here don't know how hard he's been working. He said that.
And so I don't know because I haven't heard from him.
Yeah.
Exactly. I have not either.
And so when you come on camera days later and you say that we don't know how hard you've been working, sir, I just don't understand how someone could be so blatantly condescending. Don't insult my intelligence. I refuse to accept that. And you had the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to look me in my face and expect me to believe the hyperbole that you're spewing. I can't accept it.
Yeah.
So let's address that for a second.
Okay.
Because what we have here is a flagrant dereliction of duty from the top down that needs to be addressed by some of these so-called self-proclaimed upper echelon of leadership.
Right.
Because the next day I saw local activists on my television screen at 7:30 a.m. I saw C. Denise Marcel. I saw Ted James. I saw Gary Chambers. Then I saw my governor. We didn't hear from the mayor, the police chief, and the DA until midday. Why is it that I heard from local activists that don't hold office before I heard from you?
Yeah.
And I heard from them on national television. I heard from them on the steps of City Hall, watching them on CNN. Why is that?
And yeah, where were the media? That's odd too. Sounds like the media are afraid too, or were afraid to really get involved. But
Could be.
you mentioned, okay, dealing with the issue with the police and all, you say is a top-down issue with our government. One of the things that occurred to me is that it can't be just a top-down thing, and I'm talking about addressing the whole situation. We always, talk about top-down ideas. I mean, one of the things I mentioned at my church Sunday when we were discussing this was we comfortable people, we all sit around when these things happen, and we come up with ideas. We form a group or a committee or an organization, and we never go and talk to the people that are affected by these problems to really get the scoop and learn what needs to be. We never get down and get our hands dirty and actually meet people face to face. And to me, that's one of the biggest problems. Is there is, like we mentioned before, there's a disconnect there. So to me, it's a dereliction of duty, as you said, of our leaders, our civic leaders. But
Right.
I think it's a dereliction of duty as human beings and citizens of the people on my end. That we're not coming down there and doing things with you people, having activities and learning your likes and dislikes and mixing up.
Well,
I mean, that may sound pie in the sky, but I think that's something that's needed, really, is to get together and, learn each other.
I think the fact that we have to almost systematically get together is an issue. I think that the fact that we have to, if a African American person has to plan to purposely do something with a white person or vice versa,
Right. Yeah, I understand.
we're headed in the wrong direction.
Well, but I think that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
And you're right. And so, again, thank you for having me today, because we have to sit down and fix these type of things,
Yeah.
And so, to everyone that's listening or watching me on my Facebook Live right now, I'm sitting down with two Caucasian gentlemen. I don't know if they want to be on screen, but nonetheless, I'm telling you that this is a beautiful thing, because now what we're doing is we're creating dialogue. This has created ongoing dialogue. So for everyone that's listening, I want everyone to understand what's happening right now. And the thing that's happening is this. You don't have to come onto a radio show to begin that open dialogue. Begin it at your church, begin it at your community, at your place of employment, wherever you deem necessary, wherever you're comfortable with people of different ethnic backgrounds. Sit down and start to dialogue, because that's how we're going to get to the next step. That's how we're going to get to the next place. That's how we're going to progress as a people. And when I say progressing as a people, I'm not just talking about my community. I'm talking about us as human beings, as a human race.
Totally agree.
Because if we can progress as a people, as a whole, chances are that doesn't happen without the Sterling, because now we're talking about humanity. I say it again. I am 1,000% representative of Black Lives Matter. More importantly, I'm a representative of Humanity Matters. No man deserved to lie on that concrete and be treated the way that he was. I don't care what their ethnic background is. They just didn't deserve that, period.
Okay, I need to set in
great.
for a second here.
Okay.
Johnny, can you hold that?
Yep.
I just want to let the listeners know I've been remiss. You can call in and voice your thoughts and opinions and such. 225-343-9927. We're a pause for thought. This is Wayne Parker, and we're talking with Rashawn Davis, a local businessman and concerned human being for the African-American community here in Baton Rouge.
Yes.
And, of course, Johnny Parker's here, too. Johnny, you had a question or a comment?
Just a comment to reinforce what Rashawn was saying about sitting down wherever you are, wherever you are in your community, at church, at work, wherever you're comfortable. I would also add the word wherever you're uncomfortable talking
much so.
about it, because I think a lot of people are uncomfortable.
That's a great
point.
point.
So let's challenge ourselves. Let's get outside our comfort zone and say, hey, we're not comfortable talking about this. If this years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You're
So
right. That's
we
good.
are uncomfortable. So let's be okay with being uncomfortable and go forward.
Yeah, and I have actually a personal story to relate about that sort of thing, the impression or the thinking of people locally.
Talking
Story,
about
what
that.
happened to me,
Okay.
where I work, okay? Our office manager is a young woman who has lived in Baton Rouge all of her life. And when she found out that I had been to the protests over the weekend and everything, she was concerned for my safety. And then I told her on Monday, when she came to me and told me about these things, I said, well, actually, I'm going down to Triple S after work today to see who I can talk to. And she was worried for me, and she says, aren't you scared? And I said, no. I said, they're human beings, and they recognize a human being when they see one. And I walked up and I went in the store and bought a soda and came outside, and there were some guys sitting on some plastic crates, and I just said, "Hey, can I join you guys?" And I sat down, and we had great conversations, and were friendly. And when I started to get up, I'm old and feeble, and well, not quite, but I was a bit sore, and I was having trouble getting up from that low position. And a young fellow that had been standing there just turned around and grabbed my hand. He didn't even offer his; he just grabbed my hand and pulled me up. And they made fun of me for being short, which I thought was great too. That was cool. But yeah, it was just a very relaxing experience. I had a little bit of trepidation going in because they might be mad, and understandably so. But there was no problem with me.
Listen, understand the pulse of the African American community, especially I work in that area again.
Right.
I did several interviews in the parking lot of Triple S on yesterday. We, as a whole, I'm just going to jump out on the limb and I'm going to speak for the community. Do not hate white people. That's not what this is about. And what I hate about media, not all media, but some media, wants to take things and spin them as if that's the case. I can't begin to tell you how many different ethnic backgrounds that have come out to protest and stand with African American brothers and sisters during this time. How many were at the Capitol this past Sunday, or down on Airline in Goodwood the last few nights and days. Okay? We have to understand, again, what's really happening here. There's a systematic divide based on what's happening within the confines of certain communities. Again, middle-aged white man just said to us on the air, I went and I sat with some brothers and talked, and he had some reservations about going in. Yep. Not an issue. And guess what? They weren't going to let anything happen to you.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. And some of them made the same point to me that you made. They said, we're not angry at white people. We're not angry. We're angry at injustice.
Right.
And I thought, man, yeah, my people haven't heard the half of it, But I think the isolation, I don't know that it's intended or not, but I suspect it is. But you're right. We don't. The true story never seems to get out in America. Never.
It doesn't. And so again, that's why moments like these are so important. Okay. And again, this so-called race hate that goes back and forth in the media is just that. It's a facade for ratings.
Yeah.
When you went and sat down in front of Triple S, there were no ratings there. There were no cameras. That was just people in the community doing what? Loving on each other and being human beings. Because that's what this is really about.
Yeah.
Us taking care of each other as a community as a whole, not an African American community or a white community over here and a Mexican community over there. No, us taking care of our community as a whole. That's what it means to love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
Yep.
As yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
So when you talk about love thy neighbor, that didn't come with stipulations. It didn't.
No.
And so with that being said, We're talking young, we're talking old, we're talking middle age, we're talking black, white, Mexican, male, female. You know, I'm not much for having animals in my house, but if your dog get out, I'm gonna come help you search for him.
Yeah.
That's what Love Thy Neighbor's about.
And I'd like to add too is have a discussion about what love means.
Very true.
Okay,
Very
it means,
true.
Means a lot of different things, a lot of different people,
Very true.
and there's a lot of, we need to talk about that. What's it mean?
Right. And so, with that being said, I think that all of this, as we move forward, is what we're going to need, because we still have some tough days ahead in our nation and here locally, because we have not heard very much from the Department of Justice or anything pertaining to what's going to happen with these police officers as it pertains to any type of legal action that will or won't be taken against them. And I believe that it's going to have some type of effect on the city either way.
Yeah. How do you see this moving forward, though? The effect that it has, if we are communicating, the comfortable people who've been happily isolated all this time are actually communicating and talking with the people on, who are suffering from the problems. Would that not mitigate the impact if it were negative? It would, or maybe avoid a negative impact. Maybe I garbled my point.
No, that's a good point, and I don't want to shy away from the issue.
Right.
Here's what I will say on air as it pertains to that. People have been protesting since Alton's death, right?
Yes.
Then the next day we had a tragedy in Minnesota, and then the next day we had the slaying of the officers in Dallas. If this were an issue in Baton Rouge where it was about black versus white, it would have been that a week ago. We'd be tearing up those so-called high-class neighborhoods, if you will. That hasn't been the case. No one has gone to a predominantly white neighborhood and went on someone's lawn and protest. They've gone to the state capitol, city hall, and the BRPD headquarters. Why? Because the protest is about justice, not racism.
Right.
Good point.
And it's been proven. Think about what I just said. The state capitol, city hall, Baton Rouge PD headquarters. This has been about justice.
Yes.
Equality for all. If something comes down in the form of a non-indictment or it goes to trial and then there's no verdict, do I think that the community is going to be upset? I don't think. I know for a fact that they're going to be, without question, this level that they can. My apologies. We're on live radio. FCC, scratch that. This is what I'm saying. We simply have to understand the difference between protesting behind racism and a protest behind an injustice. Okay? Because if this was a protest about racism, then it would have gone a different route a week ago.
Yes, and we need to stop there, Rashawn.
Okay.
I'm glad we ended on that powerful point. This is Wayne Parker. You've been listening to A Pause for Thought on Baton Rouge Community Radio. We've been talking with local businessman and human being Rashawn Davis, urging us all to be our human selves and be together and be with each other. We're going to be talking about this issue a whole lot more in more ways than one, but this show is open, and this station, from what I can see, is offering lots of time to get the talking going and try to get us all together. Anyway, we got to go. I thank you all for listening. Rashawn, Johnny, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Thank you.